All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another live stream. How is everybody doing? Let's see if we can get everything rolling. A couple people already in here. What's up, Dade, Laban, and Imamul? What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the stream. So, got some things to do today. Going to be taking a look at a couple different markets, some trade setups, some ideas that I am looking at. I've only got one trade open right now. It's the one that I actually put out on YouTube, or at least a piece of outside or on the USD Chf. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about that trade setup. We're also going to talk about some other movers of the day. We'll probably take a look at our heat map as we usually do and talk about that to see if there's any major shifts. And of course, we will see if there's any major setups setting up in the market today. So, hello. There we go. Got a bunch of people in the chat now. What's up, Rao? We've got Temjai, Abdul, Bashish, Sam, Liam, Jonathan, Razi, Mariana. What's up, you guys? Sophie, what's up, you guys? So, yeah, I'm going to take a look at some things with you today, see if we can talk about any of these setups that we are looking at. So let me go ahead and actually pull up the website so we can get started there, and we'll see what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to go switch my view here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. So this is the website, a1trading.com. This is our company site. We got a bunch of tools on here for free for you. If you like COT reports, you got some data there. Retail Forex sentiment, you can see what other traders are thinking, and then trade ideas, all sorts of stuff. But we're going to start with the currency heat map today just to get an idea of what's moving and what is not today. So let's do this. We're going to pull this one up. And again, you guys can look at this anytime you want just by going to our website, a1trading.com. All right, so let's see what we've got. Okay, so New Zealand dollar, definitely our strongest mover of the day there. The New Zealand has had a really good week this week so far. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all of them were green days for the New Zealand dollar, making some gains, especially against some of these other major currencies. And then you've got sort of a weak euro today, which is interesting. So we've got the euro on the losing side of things. Got the pound sort of moving lower, the Swiss franc also moving lower, and then you've got sort of mixed sentiment here. And then the yen actually coming in very strong today. That's very interesting. And then you've got the US dollar. So if you guys, some of you guys might have seen my video yesterday on the US dollar and my trade setup on USD Chf. This is kind of cool because I mentioned yesterday that I favored shorting the Swiss franc against the dollar over the yen. So I mentioned that the first one that I was looking at was USD JPY, which is sort of flat on the day. But then I mentioned that my favorite setup was happening on USD CHF. So we'll take a look at that chart in a moment and see how that trade is doing. But it looks like some Swiss franc weakness is coming into play, which is exactly what I was looking for. We'll see if that can hold. And then got a little bit of dollar strength, especially against the Swiss franc today, so up 0.27%. So not bad. We'll take a look at those trades, but again, it seems like the biggest movers for the day are the New Zealand dollar. The euro seems to be pretty bearish today, and then you've got some GBP bearishness as well. So we'll take a look at some of those crosses, and we'll also take a look at gold for those of you guys who like to take a look at that. So let's do it. Let's get into it. I should say, I want to show one more thing. On USD Swiss, let's take a look at this. I want to look at retail sentiment on dollar Swiss franc, which is about what we're about to look at on the chart there. Did I pass it already? There it is. Okay, so right now, when looking at the USD Swiss franc, which is the one trade that I currently have right now, you can actually see that most retail traders are long on this, which I am long as well. So this is an example of when, you know, I might actually be in agreement with the crowd, if you will. So retail sentiment is retail Forex sentiment, for those of you who are not super familiar with it. It is a tool that tracks essentially the positions of a bunch of different retail traders. It's available on myfxbook.com, and they have given us a tool to actually implement it into our own site. You guys can look at this anytime you want. Just go over to market data, retail sentiment here on the site. But yeah, it seems like dollar Swiss here, about 24% people short and 75% of people long. I'm one of those 75%. So let's go look at that and see what we can figure out. So we'll pull up dollar Swiss. Okay, so here it is. And let's get that full screened, and then we'll also full screen the screen itself, and let's talk about this. So yesterday I made a video talking about my my dollar Swiss franc position that I was taking, and so far it's looking pretty good. So we've got a little bit of a bullish shift here. What I wanted to point out yesterday in the dollar Swiss franc video that I basically made a trade alert video talking about how I think that the US dollar was a bit oversold recently, and that against the Swiss franc, I think it's a pretty good buy. I bought it right around this demand zone. I also like the fact that from just a bird's eye view, you've got the US dollar coming out with some decent figures. So the US dollar, in my view, is bullish at this time. We had some really good retail sales numbers come out, and overall unemployment has been dropping. Things have been pretty good in the US in terms of economic recovery. And so this move to the downside, I was viewing more as a pullback, and I still kind of am. Against the Swiss franc. Now the Swiss franc, they have actually come out, the SNB, Swiss National Bank, has actually come out and said that they want to sort of weaken their own currency on purpose. They call it currency intervention. Well, they have a purposeful, plan to try and weaken the Swiss franc so that they can be a little bit more competitive in trade. What that basically means is that if you have a weaker currency, think about like China. China has a weaker currency than some other places on purpose because it boosts their effectiveness at manufacturing. If they can manufacture something and export it very easily because it's very inexpensive to other countries, that's good for their overall economy. Well, this SNB, the Swiss National Bank, they've been trying to sort of weaken their currency on purpose. So this, in combination with a strong dollar, to me was the #1 trade that I was looking at yesterday. Now, I am not going to get it right every single time, and I would never, even expect anybody to. So I took this trade. I basically shared it on YouTube yesterday, and so far it's looking good. I'm going to talk about where I'm at with it and what my plans are with it. But again, so this was, a situation where I was bearish on the Swiss franc, and I was bullish on the US dollar. And so you can see, there's my position. I took about one lot on this, or actually one lot on the trade, and then bought it right around this zone here. So I haven't traded this one for a minute. You can see I bought back here, sold back here, and then so for the first time here in a minute, I've bought the dollar against the Swiss franc, and I'm currently holding it. So my stops are at break even. So the worst thing that happens is I stop out for a break even trade here. But the best thing that happens is that we get sort of a run up on this trade. So from a technical view, had some nice little support zones right here, and I like that 61.8 retracement. So I drew the fib, drew it a little bit differently than I might usually, but I was just looking to see if there was anything that lined up. This 61.8 looked really nice in combination with that support zone and the nice little uptrend going on here. You've kind of also got this trend line here, right? So I liked the technical view, and I also liked the fundamentals. So I took the trade, shared that on YouTube, and so far it's looking pretty good. So we'll see how this one can run. Let's drop it down to a lower time frame for just a moment. We'll talk about this. So you can see that's where I got in. A little bit fortunate on the timing there. You can see I jumped in right here on that secondary dip. Let's change that color. That's a bit hard to see. And then price sort of rallied from there. So we'll see if that can continue higher. I've already moved my stops to break even, like I said, and from here we'll see if it can trade higher. So let me just show you guys, just so you know I'm not making this up. I'll pull it up on the community tab so we can take a look at this. So if you were here yesterday, then you probably already saw this, but let me just show you. So this is an alert that goes out to members. All of the A1 trading community members see all of my trades, whether they are good or bad. They're not always good, but this was the idea. So I said I'm liking dollar Swiss. I basically said on the technical chart, risking about 50 pips, which lines up well with the ATR. So real quick, I want to show you that because I forgot to do it yesterday. So if I show the ATR and I go to the daily chart, so I risked initially 50 pips. And if you look, you can see that the ATR is right around 55 pips in a day. So my stop was right around the average daily move. So if price moved, down 50 pips or so, that was where I was willing to jump out. Okay. So let me pull that back up for you so we can look at that for a moment more. Okay. So, and then what I said is that on the technical technical side, risking 50 pips, lines up with the ATR. I like this pullback to a demand zone in combination with a 61.8 retracement. And then from a fundamental, I won't say the whole thing, but you guys can pause or go back if you want to watch this again, because I just got done explaining it in the stream here with you. So yeah, ended up going long there. Things are going well so far. We'll see if it can keep running. Again, if I make any adjustments to this trade, you guys who are in the premium group, I will of course be posting right here for you. So keep an eye on that if you're watching Dollar Swiss. Okay, so yeah, looking pretty good so far. Stops locked in and ready to go. So let's see if that one can. If we can get some more dollar strength, we'll see if it can run up. I did also want to say targets on this thing. I don't have a take profit myself because I like to trail stops. But in terms of like where I think price could be headed, I think your first stop for Dollar Swiss is a move up to here. And this kind of lines up with the overall dollar bullishness idea here, right? Because if we look at the DXY, you can see there's sort of been a pullback to a major level. I basically got long, and I'm looking for a move up to this sort of ledge, this previous resistance point here. So that's where I'm targeting number one. Number two, I'm going to say is probably not until this. The best case scenario for my trade would be a run up all the way to the previous high there. So we'll see if that wants to play out. If that were to happen, I mean, it's a pretty intense move, but it's over 300 pips. So Nick, did Dollar Swiss move 50 pips prompt you to move to break even? Kind of. It's not necessarily a pip count. It's more just like when I see you know, a few bars, like a certain number of bars up, I'm usually going to move my stop to break even. Wondering if Nick ever trades the indices? Rarely, not too often. Usually I'll either buy individual stocks or trade currencies. But yeah. Hi, Nick, made it in today's live. Well, welcome. Happy to have you here. DG says, or is trying to do a Discord command. If you want the Discord, sorry, for those of you guys who are looking to join that Discord, there's a link down below in the description. It's not free, but if you have an interest, you can check it out there and see all the different perks. And there's a promo code for those of you who are with me here. You can just use code YTLive and you get a discount on joining the group if you have an interest. Check it out. Dade also just dropped it in the chat if you guys want to click the link and go take a look for yourself if that would be a fit for you. We've got a lot of different members from around the world and a couple different analysts sort of leading our community there. So check it out if you have any interest. All right, so let's look at Euro USD while we're looking at Dollar Swiss. These two are fairly inversely correlated. When Euro dollar is moving up, Dollar Swiss is usually going down and vice versa because of the US dollar correlation between these two. So Euro dollar seeing a little bit of a pullback today. Kind of interesting because we've had this really good run up on Euro dollar. And I'm not bullish on the Euro dollar by any means, but just from a technical view, a pretty strong run up in terms of, you know, we formed this low and then price basically just continued to rally. We hardly saw any pullback until now. So kind of an interesting concept here is with US dollar strength coming back in, it seems like Euro USD is really going to be tested here. So the big moment for Euro USD is going to be seeing if you're a bull on this pair to see if this has room to hold. If it breaks, I think Euro dollar has plenty of room to go down. You guys, if you've been watching the stream, you know I'm pretty much a bear on Euro dollar because I'm not a big fan of buying the euro right now. I much favor the US dollar at this time. And I've had some pretty good trades in favor of, you know, dollar strength. You can see here is where I shorted the US dollar, covered back, you know, and so I haven't taken any trades recently on this currency pair, but let me just say for the bears out there who are also like looking for those sort of setups like me, I'd love to see a break of this structure here. Structure break of that might be enough to get me involved looking for more sell side action. But right now it seems like the pullback strength is pretty good. The bullish strength is pretty good, and I'd probably want to see some sellers come in strong before getting involved. This is the first time we've really seen a pullback on Euro USD in a few weeks now. So you can see we had some sort of sideways movement, but this is the first time we're seeing, you know, a rally followed by a actual seller's pullback. But again, the question is it a pullback or is it actually going to reverse? We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but like I said, if I was to sell this thing, I'd be interested in seeing some sort of break of structure and looking for rebounds like that. Okay? Just my thoughts. All right. Yeah, asking for those of you who are asking about the moving averages that I just have the 100 and 200 right now. But usually my favorite is the 200. I just like the slowness of it and just shows the overall trend. You can see, like for example, I like it on the daily chart. It's one of my favorite indicators. It's a very, very simple indicator, but the idea is, you know, you've got long-term trends, and usually when you're above or below the 200-day moving average, it has some sort of meaning. However, sometimes there are moments or parts of time where things just chop around the 200-day and they're indecisive. You know, let's see if we can find an example of that. Yeah, here's an example. So on euro dollar during this time, you can kind of see the 200-day just kind of went flat and things went above it, below it, above it, below it, below. You know, it's not always like a perfect, just because it's above, it's going to rally, and just because it's below, it's gonna fall forever. But it is a pretty good, in my view, you know, when you get the clean breaks, looking for something like this, you say, okay, well, from now on, I'm looking for bullish setups only. Once we sort of clear that 200-day, that's usually a signal for me to become bullish or bearish. I'll give you an example. During this time, I was pretty much only bearish on the euro dollar for all this time. We stayed below that 200. We saw just a continued nice sell pressure there. This was also a time when the carry trade was very alive. I think the euro was offering 0% interest, and the US dollar at this time was offering 2% interest. So there was a nice little carry trade where you could sell the euro and go buy the US dollar, and you would get paid positive swaps or interest, right? And so that's called the carry trade. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up on my channel. Just look up Trader Nick carry trade on YouTube. But there is actually, you know how you have to pay swaps sometimes to your broker? Well, you can actually get paid swaps in a currency pair that pays, one currency pays positive interest and the other pays less or negative interest. So I was actually getting paid to hold Euro USD shorts during this entire time, which was really nice. So check that out if you have any interest in the carry trade. I'm not going to lie to you guys, right now with interest rates so low, the carry trade is kind of not super appealing. Once interest rates sort of go up, it becomes a little bit more appetizing because, you know, if the AUD, for example, was paying 5%, that means that, you know, you stick your money in the Australian bank, you could get 5% per year. That's pretty good, right? Flat, like just passive, that's not so bad, especially if, you know, the Aussie is 5% and the Swiss franc, which right now is negative 0.75, there's a pretty big spread there. So if you were to sell this, take your money out of the Swiss franc and go put it in something that yields higher, this is not the real, like, right now situation. I believe in Australia it's either, is it 0.1%? It's either 0.1% or 0.25%, but it's not 5%, but this is just an example. So, you know, you would take your money, this is the thought, you sell the Swiss franc and you go buy that higher yielding currency, and you can sit there and collect positive swaps. So just a thought for you. Hi, Nick, how is the investment works? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I will say, if you're thinking about, like, just so you guys know, just to pause, if you ever get a message from me and it looks like me or whatever, and it's talking about investments or, you know, oh, I'll invest your money for you, I don't do that. Those are scammers that use my name and pictures and stuff to try and scam individuals. So please don't ever send money to anybody who says that or looks like anybody who's trying to handle your money or account manage for you or whatever, and they want you to send them Bitcoin. Do not do that. That's a scam. They will take your money and then they'll block you, and then you'll never hear from them again because they have your money and that's all they wanted. So please be careful about that sort of stuff. I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Chanel, but I just wanted to say it. All right. AUD interest rate is around 0.25. Thank you, Evo. Yeah, I knew it was either 0.1 or 0.25. 0.1 is the British pound, I believe, and then New Zealand? I'm not too sure. Pound New Zealand? Sure, we'll take a look at it. Why not? All right, Pound New Zealand. So this is a currency pair I'm just going to say right off the bat, this is one that I don't trade. It's not that there's anything wrong with pound New Zealand, but these are two currencies that are both sort of risk-on currencies, meaning, and I've explained this a lot of times, but for the newer people here, I'll keep explaining it. When you have two risk-on currencies, these are both currencies that benefit from a global positive outlook, like growing economies. Technically, all economies do better in a global improving economy. However, there are currencies that do better. They do faster, right? They grow much quicker. Two of those being the pound and the New Zealand dollar, at least right now. That can change over time. But the idea is, you've got these two crossed against each other. So usually I like to go with one currency that I'm strong, I have a fundamentally bullish bias on, and then one that I have a fundamentally bearish bias on. So when we look at GN or GBP NZD, I'm pretty bullish on both of these currencies at this time. So I probably wouldn't trade it myself. If anything, I would trade this thing sort of sideways. So I'd be looking for range-bound trades, things like this. Saying, okay, buyers down there, sellers up here. Got some more sell pressure here. I'm going to extend these out because that's going to bother me. Let's go there, there, and we'll go there. All right. So like these are just like the quick levels that I see there on pound New Zealand. So when we look at this, you've got this sort of downtrend structure. It looks like it probably, well, it already kind of did test the bottom of this range, but it may be headed to retest this bottom. You've got some strong support here previously. And, as it comes down to this point, I'd probably like I said, I'm pretty bullish on both of these currencies, so I wouldn't expect one to absolutely dominate the other. Although it could happen, that's just not something that I would try and forecast on two currencies like this. So if anything, I'd be looking to try and play the range-bound game. I'd be looking to buy down here, sell up here at the extremes, and just sort of playing the back and forth on this market. That's just my opinion. I don't have a super strong view on this currency pair. If anything, like I said, there's just some downtrend structure here. Looks like it might be headed back down to retest the lows here. Somebody asked how they can get in contact with me privately. I don't really contact people privately. I get quite a few DMs. If you need help with something, if there's something that you need help with from our company, we have a couple different ways to contact us. You can send a message to us on Instagram at A1 Trading Team. Julie or Emily will get back to you quickly. And then you can also go to our website and go to the Contact Us tab. So if you just go to a1trading.com, it's up there on the tab. Just go to Contact. Okay, let's look at gold because someone was talking about gold. Let's look at it. All right, so gold making its look at this. We called this yesterday. We talked about this zone here. If you're a bull, was probably a better area to look for bullish setups. You can actually see, seems like we're holding that for now. Let's look at the 1 hour chart really quick. Let's pull this up. So we had this downtrend structure. Things were super bearish. Things sort of have shifted. We've seen a nice little bullish uptick. And last week we talked about looking at the COT reports. We pulled them up a few times. I'm not going to do it again because I've done it a couple different times. But if you guys want to look at the COT reports, feel free to do that on your own time. Just head over to a1trading.com and go to the COT reports tab. And you can look up the latest institutional data or what the big money, the smart money, the big institutions are doing with gold. But lately they seem like they started to pick up some gold positions, and it looks like they're probably adding some more. That would just be my opinion. But again, you can go check the data for yourself if you'd like to look at it. The latest data said that we had a sort of a buy up on gold and then a little bit of give back. But since then, since we've had our latest data, it looks like they're buying more. Just my view. With that said, the levels here seem pretty strong. So we had a pretty big level of resistance that we talked about. There was multiple times where he said, hey, if sellers are in control, they're going to hold these areas. They were not able to hold those areas, and it does actually look pretty good for the gold market. You can see price rolled over. And this is an interesting example, you guys, of a time when gold is moving up, and so is the US dollar. Right? And this happens sometimes. They're not exactly inversely correlated. Just because gold is going up does not mean the US dollar cannot also go up. Even though you've got gold against the dollar, it's more just which is outpacing which. Is gold outpacing the dollar, or is the dollar outpacing gold? So When we look at this move here, again, from a technical view, beautiful little pullback setup there. Could have caught some nice buys there. I didn't take the trade because I have sort of other focuses right now in other areas that I find a little bit easier, a little bit better for me. But just from those of you guys who love to trade gold, I know there's a lot of you out there who just, you know, gold is your jam, gold is your thing, and nothing wrong with that. I think, like I said yesterday, I think the next move for gold, if any, you know, if the trend here continues, I think you probably see a run up to 1810. Again, just kind of completing that nice little, you know, sequence of pullback, you know, extension, pullback, extension. I think that that's probably the next level higher for gold, especially if we get COT report data showing us that there was another increase in buy pressure on this by big money. I think you probably could see a nice little move there. Yield bond rising. Is it rising today? I'm curious. Let's go look at the yield bond. Let's see. All right, so bond yields rising a little bit today, 1.56. Yeah, bond yields, if yields rise quickly, that could be bearish for gold. So keep an eye on that as well. Bond yields, for those of you who are Forex traders and you think it's only Forex that matters, it's not actually true. Forex is one piece of the puzzle, you guys. There's bonds, there's stocks, there's indices, you know, there's commodities. There's all these different things that come into play. And if you're a fundamental trader like me, you know, there's more than just looking at technical analysis or just Forex. I mean, I understand that, you know, there's some people who, you know, their biggest thing is they just like to trade technicals, and that's cool. But I'm going to say that that's what most people in the Forex retail spaces do. They just only focus on technicals, and that's fine. Like, I know people that are successful with that, but I find it a little bit easier to understand sort of what's moving in the world. Right now, a big thing is that bond yields seem to be rising and look like they're likely to rise up to maybe even 2% by the end of the year here in the US. That is a huge bullish catalyst for the US dollar. It's also a very concerning thing for the gold market, which means that, you know, this trend here, this movement here, I think probably does make another push higher, probably just from a technical view. But I think that there is some big concerns in terms of long-term buy validity of the gold market. I think, you know, if bond yields continue to rise, that could send gold lower. We've talked about this a few times. There is a argument, gold versus bonds. And bonds, both of these are sort of considered a sort of hedge against just stocks or other investments, as they're sort of more stable or over time considered stable. Well, gold, the thing is, gold yields nothing. Percent per year, if you hold gold, it yields nothing. If the value of gold goes up, you make money. If the value of gold goes down, you lose money. In bonds, it's different. If you hold bonds, you collect some sort of positive coupon, right? If you buy a 10-year bond or whatever and it pays you 2% per year you get 2% on top of if the bond appreciates, and you get your money back at the end of the time, right? So you have to think about this when it comes to big picture stuff, when you're talking about millions and billions of dollars moving around and people trying to park their money in the very best place. This is the argument that is often had for the gold market is, you know, looking at inflation, looking at things that are going on in the world, you know, with the US dollar and with the bond market. If bonds become more attractive, it could be bearish for gold. Because if this, you know, if this goes to, for example, 3%, this starts to look more appealing and people might sell their gold and go buy bonds. This is the thought process. You know, I am by no means some sort of professional economist or anything. Economist, I can never say that word. Does anybody else struggle with the word economist? I always say economist, and then I have to correct myself. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking with on gold is, you know, just be concerned with that yield curve. Watch it, keep an eye on it, because if it continues to rise, if it continues to look like it's going to rise, it could be a bearish thing for gold. So yes, short term, I think that there's some bullishness here on gold, but longer term, not so convinced right now. Now, I say that I actually have some gold myself. I hold some gold long term just as sort of a part of my portfolio. It's not a lot, but I think it's like maybe 2 to 3% of my stock portfolio. So, you know, and that's like a long-term investment. Gold doesn't care about the dollar. It's a bond game. It is largely with bonds, but it's also, it cares about the dollar in terms of inflation, right? Lots of inflation usually is actually a good thing for gold, and inflation under control is usually not the best thing for gold. All right, that's your gold fix today. I know you guys love gold for some reason, all you crazy gold traders. Let's look at, I want to take a look at the index because I know the index is coming down, or it was coming down. Let's see what's going on today with the S&P 500. Look at this. Anytime the market dips, it just looks lately, it just looks so pitiful, right? These sellers are just so weak, you know, little sells, little sells, little sells. When they get going, you know, when the market really sells off, it can be ugly. But a lot of times you get these little mini dips and everybody thinks it's going to turn into something more, and usually it doesn't. So when I look at this dip, I'm not going to jump to conclusions. Usually when it comes to the stock market, I'm just bullish, right? I'm just overall bullish, and I look at dips as buying opportunities. I don't look at them as, you know, oh, it looks like it's time to short, right? Although it does look top heavy and it looks like it could come down, you just never know with these things. These things can just continue to run for a very long time. And so when I look at this, when I look at the US indices, if anything, if we were to see a dip, I'd probably expect a move down to this last sort of line in the sand for where sellers were able to hold for a little bit, right? People who were selling the stock market there, selling the stock market there, well, it broke out there. So if it does pull back, I would expect, you know, buyers to try and hold this area. So that would be sort of a pullback zone to me on the U.S. stock market. This is a daily chart view for those of you guys who like these U.S. indices. Yeah, you get some of you guys are gold diggers, that's for sure. You love trading your gold. All right, pound dollar. Yeah, let's look at pound dollar. We'll pull up GBP USD. Talk about this one. Look at that, held resistance really well here on this one. You know, and honestly, that's not too surprising. This one is another currency for me that, or currency pair for me, that I'm bullish on both of the underlying currencies, bullish on the US dollar, bullish on the pound. Both of them have had some nice rapid recoveries in terms of the pandemic and everything. So when I look at this, you know, it looks to me like this could just come right on back down. That would be, if anything, not that I'm trading this thing, but if I was trading it, I would say probably a move right back down, just continuing this range-bound market that we're in. It did come up with a lot of conviction, and I kind of thought, you know, hey, if this thing breaks, it could be headed up to the previous high. But now with this rejection, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think if anything, probably just due to let gravity pull it right back down here. We'll see if I'm right about that. And I don't have any trades on this, so this is not a currency pair that I'm trading right now. You can see the last time I traded it was March of this year, so it's been a minute since I took any trades on this. At this point, you know, things were looking much better for the pound than the US dollar. Sort of tried to buy into that pullback, and then when that didn't work out too well, I basically just said, you know what, this is a different environment now. Basically said I'm bullish on the dollar and bullish on the pound, and thank goodness I did, because there was nothing for the buyers since then. Right? From this point, if I had stayed bullish on this currency pair, maybe there's a little bit of move there, maybe a little bit there, but for the most part, this thing has traded sideways for a couple months now. So we'll see if that can change. Maybe I'm wrong about this whole pullback. I will say, if you're bullish on the pound dollar, if you're looking to day trade this thing, arguably you could have some attempt for buyers to step in here, where we're currently at. You've had nice rejection here. Price did break out of that previously, so watching to see if that one can hold could be a nice play. You could also make the argument from a technical view that you've got something like this. Looks like it's holding a 38.2 right now, or trying to at least. So a couple different technical bullish factors there. But again, for me, not super interested in this one, just because bullish on both currencies. Okay. Cover NZD Cad. NZD Cad, same thing. Bullish on both currencies. The ones that I am not like that. So let's see if I can pull up the old tier list. Can I do that? There it is. Okay. All right. So this pretty much hasn't changed too much lately. So when I say, what I mean by that is when I say currencies that I'm bullish on one and bearish on the other. I like to trade that because I'm more of a trend follower. So I like to see a fundamental driving trend that is pushing one currency that I like against one that I'm weak or sell biased on. So when I look at this little chart that I pulled up, I'm pretty bullish on the US dollar, pretty bullish on the Australian dollar, pretty bullish on the New Zealand, the pound, and then the Canadian I'm sort of mixed, gold I'm sort of mixed, and then down at the bottom, you've got the Japanese yen, the Swiss franc, and the euro. So of these different currencies, and I guess gold in there as well, you know, I'm usually looking to buy one of the top ones and sell one of the lower ones. And that is because I'm going for a strong currency versus a weak currency. And that's where some of the best trends for me sort of come out of. Now, this is based on my opinion. So this is not necessarily like, oh, these currencies at the top are absolutely going to outperform. But these are the ones that I think have a better potential chance of doing well over time. This is sort of a longer term horizon. So I'm looking, you know, 6 months out, what I think could happen to these currencies. And like I said, I can definitely be wrong, but those are just my thoughts. So I'm looking to trade something like dollar Swiss, dollar yen, euro dollar. You've got, of course, AUD yen, AUD Swiss, euro Aussie. Those are some of my favorite currencies right now. Okay, or currency pairs. So let's take a look at euro Aussie because I feel like we haven't talked about the Aussie yet. And we'll see if we can find something here. So I took a couple trades. Oh, I didn't recap you guys on what happened with my euro Aussie trade. So I ended up taking a profit there on euro Aussie. So for those of you guys who are in the private Discord where I called this trade out, you already know what happened. But essentially, the euro Aussie has been a pretty good currency pair for me lately. So I took a couple different trades here on this currency pair. So I ended up taking a short here at this supply level, covered back right around here, took a small loss selling here, covering here. And then I took another trade here that turned out to be a nice profit. So I sold this same resistance zone. Price popped up back into this level that I liked back in March. Took that trade to the downside, saw the beautiful sell-off I was hoping for, and then we sort of consolidated for a while. Price ultimately started to run back the other way, so I covered. So I took this trade here, caught some of that downward movement there again on euro Aussie. So this one moved really nice. I know a couple different people in the chat room, at least a couple people that took the same trade or a similar trade to me on euro Aussie. So if you did catch that, then congratulations. Really liked this one, as I think sort of the European economy is probably, in my view, going to underperform the Australian economy, as Australia has been bouncing back really strong here last in 2020, and I think it's probably set to continue in 2021. So that's my view on that. Anyways, took that trade at resistance, covered back here, and again, I called that one out inside of our private group. So if you're not already in our private group, you can find out all the information about that. We have a Discord. It looks like this. I share all of my trades, what I'm in, looking at, and why. And then we've also got chat rooms. There's research from our fundamental analysts. We've got Bart and Frank who do a great job there. Frank shares his trades. We've got Patrick as well. And then we have VIP webinars with Joe Barreca multiple times a week. He goes through what he's looking at in the markets as well and answers questions for newer traders looking for help. So if that sounds helpful to you, if any of this is something that you're looking at joining, definitely click the link down below in the description and use the promo code that's down there, YT Live. It will get you in there for a discount so that you can, it'll cost you less for supporting the stream. So thank you very much for being here and supporting the stream. It does mean a lot, and it definitely helps to grow our mission here, which is just to talk realistic trading, not all that hype and smoke and mirrors that you see on social media. So Calvin says, yeah, Nick took profit near 2-to-1 risk reward. Hey, awesome, Calvin. Well done, my man. That's a pretty good trade there. Yeah, this one ended up being a pretty nice winner for me. It wasn't a ginormous winner. I was hoping really to see this move down to 1.53. Didn't get that move, unfortunately, but still happy with the profit. Not going to complain. Took the trade, trailed the stop, and then got covered the trade on the rebound. And I'm glad I did, because you can see it kind of continued to rally back the other direction. So Nice, Calvin, and congrats to the others who caught the same trade. So awesome. What's your expectations on today's CAD news? What is today's CAD news? Do we have, is it not already out? Usually by now you get the data come out. Okay, we have rate statements. Ooh, this is interesting. I think that they probably are not going to raise rates, right? Did they mention that they... I mean, because if Canada raises rates, that would be incredibly bullish for the Canadian dollar, but I don't expect them to. And I don't think that they would. They might have something else to say, though. Maybe I'm... Interesting. You know what? With that said, thank you for bringing that up, by the way. Natasha, thank you for that. Let's look at USD Cad just for curiosity's sake. So the dollar has been rallying against the Canadian dollar. Let's full screen this. So the US dollar has been very bullish against the CAD. That's very interesting going into rate decision or rate news. You know, it kind of seems like interest rates are not going to get raised for a while around the world. So I wouldn't expect Canada to say anything else. But the bigger potentially market moving news is that if you watch that and there's some sort of clues by Canada they want to raise rates sooner or later, that could be incredibly bullish or bearish for the CAD depending on what they say. So I don't know what they're going to say, but I sort of expect them to probably follow suit with what the rest of other major chairmen and women have said, which is, you know, you've got a plan to eventually raise rates, but not right now, right? Sort of in the future. I think the Fed has talked about 2022 or something like that. And then same with the New Zealand bank, right? So if they say something like that, though, if they say like, hey, 2022, and they match that, that could actually be bullish. So keep an eye on that. Definitely could move the markets there. But again, definitely just going to come down to any sort of hints as to what their plans for the future are. If they talk about raising rates sooner, that is usually going to be a bullish thing for the CAD, which could send dollar CAD lower, right? People sell the dollar in favor of the CAD. So just some things to think about. Got some moves on CAD Swiss yesterday. Awesome. Well done. How many trades do you take per day? Well, I'm not a day trader. I'm more of a swing trader. So usually I'm taking 1 to 3 trades a week. It really just depends a week. Maybe 4 trades a week if I'm really active. But I'm usually looking for bigger moves and slower execution. I have a lot of stuff going on in life. I run a business and, you know, I have a very high demanding cat that takes a lot of my time as well. So, you know, I don't like to be day trading all the time because it's super time consuming to me. And I would much rather just be looking for the bigger moves, go with the macro trends, that sort of thing, and try and just capture bigger swings in the market. But again, for dollar CAD bears out there, keep an eye on the news today for sure. If CAD news comes out good or it sounds good, it could lead dollar CAD to make a move right back down to 1.254. And the next level higher, if price breaks out, I'd say you probably could see a move up to 1.274, this move up here. So got some pending news which could either validate this move up or completely deny it. And if that move gets denied, I think it's probably headed back down to here. So that's just my thoughts, though. I caught gold recent move to the upside, 90 pips in profit. Nice. Awesome, unwanted alpha. Cool. All right, you guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep an eye on that CAD news today to see if it has any major movements if you're watching CAD pairs. Hey, and check out the website for all the tools that we've talked about and used on the site, or on the stream. Like I said, you can look at retail Forex sentiment. You can look at our latest trade ideas here, read up on what we're looking at. And then, you know, you've got things like the currency heat map that we usually look at each day to see what's moving and what's not. So if any of these tools sound helpful to you, you can get them for free. Go to a1trading.com and there should be a link down below in the description. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back next time.